Freedom, man. That's what it's all about. You've got to groove on freedom, like the good book says.
Welcome. You are listening to What on Earth is Happening. This show will discuss the topics of human consciousness, mind control, natural law, the occult, and all issues that affect the freedom of the people of Earth. What on Earth is Happening will endeavor to shine light upon the darkness of our world and to offer empowering solutions to the problems we face as humanity approaches its critical moment of choice. And now, here is your host, Mark Passio.
Welcome, one and all. You're watching What on Earth is Happening. I'm your host, Mark Passio. My website, whatonearthishappening.com. Ladies and gentlemen, government is slavery. And here on What on Earth is Happening, we are ending slavery one mind at a time. Thank you for tuning in today. Today is Sunday, February 26th. 2023. This is episode number 267 of What on Earth is Happening. This podcast is a collection of information that is presented in a tapestry. So if you are a new viewer to the show, it is not recommended that you listen now. It is not recommended that you listen from this point forward. You should go back to episode number 1, and you should listen in order at your own pace to all preceding 266 episodes. And speaking of episode number 266, last week I laid into people pretty hard. And I just want to say, I meant every word. I don't apologize for one word that I said. Everything that I said was true and accurate and correct. And one of the other things that I want to say about what I said last week is I am taking the correct moral position, and I am taking the correct emotional position. And a lot of people will insist that that's incorrect and wrong, and insist that somehow the views that I'm espousing and the frustration that I'm showing over how ignorant the world still is, how ignorant people still are about being able to reach other people with information, how ignorant they are about communication and publishing technologies that can reach other people's minds and help to change their minds for the better. The continued level of ignorance regarding that, and my anger regarding that continued level of ignorance. And people will say, I'm somehow not entitled to that anger, or somehow that anger is wrong, that it's somehow morally or spiritually wrong. Imagine this. Imagine how dumb another person has to be to even take that position spiritually. People will say, that's not spiritual. Oh no, being calm about the state of slavery is very spiritual though, don't you know? You don't know that? You didn't get the memo on that? I'll resend the email. I'll make sure everybody gets the memo about how spiritual it fucking is to be very calm about being enslaved, and that other people are enslaved, and that people's children are enslaved, and their grandchildren are enslaved, and their great-grandchildren are going to be enslaved. It's great to be calm about that. It's a wonderful position to take, to be calm, not to really be doing a fucking thing about it. Just living your life, trying to live your best life, being fucking calm. The Crown would love you. You know, do you get down on your knees and say, if it please the crown, too? Oh, I didn't do that in a British enough voice. If it please the crown. You know, maybe then I would be taking a spiritual position. Is that what it is? Imagine being a jackass like this, walking by a fenced-in area on a cotton plantation in the South during the Civil War period and looking at a slave with a completely torn-up back from being whipped mercilessly for not working fast enough. And you turn into him and saying, "What are you so angry about your enslavement for, slave? That's not very spiritual of you." Get the fuck out of here. Get the fuck out of here. Just right off the bat, just get the fuck out of my face with your bullshit. You're a bullshit artist. People like that. That's what you are. You're not even fucking real. You're some kind of an automaton fucking flesh robot. You don't have any fucking real emotions. You got fucking a husk inside because you don't care enough. You don't have any fucking passion about anything. You're the real fucking slaves. People like that. I may be a prisoner, but I'm nobody's fucking slave. You see? Let's get that clear. You know? People like that who have no fucking emotions to them, you're the fucking slaves. You're the willful slaves. Don't give me any bullshit. Don't tell me about fucking spirituality. I forgot more about fucking spirituality in my pinky finger than you'll ever have in 100,000 fucking lifetimes, losers. You don't think that this is a spiritual position, talking straight to motherfuckers? Stopping wearing a fucking mask, being your genuine fucking self, telling them the hard truth that they need to know? Go fuck yourself. If you don't know that, balls to bones. Okay? I'm tired of fucking assholes like that. Trust me, I'll out asshole you too. But nobody's going to tell me I don't know what I know about real spirituality. I've taught whole fucking seminars on it, and I'm correct about it. Not these new age bullshitters who want to tell you to calm the fuck down. Don't get angry about anything. Don't get angry about all the injustice. Don't get angry about slavery. Get the fuck out of my fucking face, losers. You're losers, is what you are. You don't understand. You say that you understand. You claim to understand, and that's all it is. It's a fucking untrue claim. You don't understand anything about what's going on in this world at all. At all. Or you'd be significantly enraged at what's going on regarding government, regarding its intrusions into our lives, regarding tyranny, regarding duress. Regarding what, if you have two fucking brain cells to rub together, you recognize is slavery. And if you're not against it, you're a rotten person in the core of your fucking husk of a being. Let's get that fucking perfectly straight. The problem does not lie with me, losers who disagree. The problem does not lie with me. I'm perfectly fucking fine. I'm just frustrated at what losers you all are. I'm frustrated at how fucking dumb you still are when all the information's available at your fucking loser ass fingertips. You're still a fucking dunce. I'm frustrated at how little you understand about communicating. You're still a fucking dunce when it comes to that. I got a new term. We've all heard the term libtard, right? A retarded liberal, right? People who buy into all the fucking news, believe everything that comes out, drools out the Democratic Party's assholes, right? And guess what? Hey, I'm not picking up for the right side. I'm not picking up for the Republicans. Most of you are just as much fucking totalitarian, authoritarian fucking losers. I don't play your political bullshit game because it's a fucking game constructed by dark occultists to fucking enslave you, losers. You're both fucking losers. So, just because I call someone a libtard, I don't think the other side is just as fucking retarded. Because politics is fucking retarded. Because to believe in it, you gotta be a fucking retard. To buy into that bullshit this late in the fucking game, this late into the 21st century, in the year 2023, you still believe that fucking occult nonsense bullshit? You're a fucking loser who deserves whatever the fuck happens to you, asshole. You know, and I'm gonna fucking rant about it, because I'm correct. I'm correct, and I know the truth. And this is the correct moral position. It's the only moral position to stand against government. Because government is fucking violence. Government is fucking duress. Government is fucking slavery. And if you don't know that by now, you're a dumbass fucking loser. You're a dumb fucking person, and you're a bad fucking person. And I'll tell it straight to your fucking face. If you challenge me on it, and you don't understand. It means that you're dumb, and it means that you're bad. Because they're one and the same. Because ignorance is evil. Ignorance about morality is evil. That's what converts someone into a bad person. And we're going to talk about that today with my special guest, Logan Hart, who's coming up. I'm going to go over to my laptop and go through some event announcements first, and then we'll bring Logan on. Let's jump over to my slides. Thank you to Will Keller for the great artwork, as always. Again, this is episode 267. Obviously, you shouldn't listen to it out of order, because there's a lot of prerequisite knowledge, and you'll understand if you take the fucking time to listen to the prerequisite previous episodes why I'm so goddamn angry. I've been telling people what was going to become of the world for the last 16 fucking years. Unheard, largely. Heard by a tiny pissant few and understood by even a pissant less. Okay? To know this all that time is a torture. Seeing it unfold in practical slow motion, trying to tell people and warn people. And they don't understand because they're dense in the fucking brain. They're dense in the skull. And I've been telling them the solution is speaking out, is understanding morality and then teaching it and speaking it out to other people. And they don't want to do that because they're cowards. And I'll continue to come on the air every fucking week and say the same thing over and over again. Because there's nothing new under the sun. It's all the same thing. You got to grow the fuck up. You got to take fucking personal responsibility for your own lazy, sorry fucking ass. You got to pull yourself up from the fucking bootstraps. You got to educate yourself and you got to educate others. And that's the fucking real answer that nobody else will just give you the straight shit on and tell you right to your fucking face just like that. And I'll do it since no one else will. We're on a 2-hour format now. Sorry, I jumped ahead there. From on a 6-month schedule from January through June. So I'm limiting what I'm doing here on What on Earth is Happening this season. Number one, because I'm moving and I have to reset up my entire operation. I'm actually going to be beginning my move. It'll probably be a month-long period. So again, I may not be able to do shows during a portion of the move. And we'll talk about that because I may not be on the air next week. I'm going to have to call an audible on that one and see, because I've scheduled another interview, an important panel discussion, which we'll talk about in a moment. So next week, What on Earth is Happening may or may not be live. I'll have to see how I feel and the timing of all of that. Check out my band.video channel at band.video/channel/Mark-Passio. I have 2 videos up there. I'll be adding a third this week. I know I've been saying I'm going to get around to adding more videos. I just haven't had the time. But I will be putting part 2 of the Natural Law Seminar up there. Hopefully, Band.video's viewing audience is learning a little bit from the information that I've been putting out there on that entire network and, that community of people. I think what I'm going to have to do at some point in time is do some special podcasts specifically directed at the Band.video/Infowars audience, because again, I'm not a very popular person among that crowd. And the reason is because they're a highly religious community. And it's unfortunate because they've been reeled in. They've been roped in. And they think I'm one of the bad guys for exposing Satanism, for exposing genuine Satanism that is actually ruling their lives. And they want to believe all the answers lies in one little book that their lazy asses hasn't even read and understood. They don't understand the allegorical content of their own religious texts. And they want to think it's all just in one place. They don't want to think they have to do any work, that they have to just believe in somebody, that it's an all externalized power and it's going to be done for them and it's in somebody else's hands. When that is never true, has never been true. It's been an occult, a dark occult methodology to get people to stand down and not take direct action. And religionists can generally just go fuck themselves because you don't understand, you don't know what the answer is, you're incorrect regarding what real morality is. That's the problem with religion. It misguides people as to what true, actual, objective morality under God's law is. And they don't understand natural law, even when they're hearing it taught. All they care about, that's coming from a former Satanist, the drooling idiot monkey says. Yeah, it is. Because I learned the truth of the matter about what real morality is, and your sorry ass still fucking hasn't because you're buying into your bullshit religion that was invented by Satanists for your lazy ass fucking brain that won't go and vet any true information. You just want it handed it to you and say, you don't really have to do any real work, just believe on this, boy. Dumb as a bag of fucking rocks. Dumb as a sack of fucking rocks. And I'm going to try to do it respectfully. I'm going to temper my attitude. I'm not going to be as vicious, and I'm going to try to explain it. But I don't really expect that much. I don't expect that much because we're not dealing with people with a lot of intellectual acumen. We're just not. We're dealing with people with simple brains. And I mean that in a bad way. I mean that in the sense that a Southerner will say, bless your heart, honey. You have a simple mind. And that's what I mean is you're a simpleton. Meaning you have no complexity of thought. You have no real logic going on in the upstairs unit. You know? That's the problem with people. They're very, very, very fucking dumb, and they believe that they're more intelligent than they actually are. That's the Dunning-Kruger effect. So I may have to take this into the realm of making a secondary podcast, like maybe a once-a-month thing, and putting that on Band.video. Because this crowd's going to need special education, if you get my drift, you know. They're going to need a special form of learning. You know, it's remedial, let's just say. So I'm going to have to figure out what I'm going to do regarding Band.video, because just putting existing stuff up there, I don't know if that crowd's going to understand. You know, they're just too religiously brainwashed, and it's a problem. It's a problem. It's not my platform, so I don't want to get too deep into it. But religion's a big fucking problem in this world. As I've talked about, it's the only problem. It's the only problem. And not cultural religions like just the big religions of the world. There are religions that people never even consider are religions. And those are the most dangerous religions, like government and the love of money. You know, and what people will do in an immoral capacity just to get money. But anyway, just throwing that out there for later on. How to become the true media. Enrollment is racing toward us in just over a month. Enrollment opens April 1st. And I got a new term. I was just going to say this before, but this is the appropriate time. We've heard of libtards, and I'm going to throw out a new term out there. Ludtards. Okay? Don't be a ludtard. Take the How to Become the True Media seminar. Because if you're a ludtard, you're not helping anybody. You're not reaching anybody. And that's what we have out there, are ludtards. Ludtards, and Ludtards gonna Ludtard, you know? And I'm talking about people who are Luddite retards. Luddite retards. Luddite retards. Okay? Get the term clear in your mind, and we're going to truncate that. We're going to abbreviate it. We're going to shorten it to Ludtard. Are you a Ludtard? If so, How to Become the True Media can help you become unludtarded. You know, there's my little promo for the class this year, for the seminar. Are you Ludtarded? Something can be done about that. It's not something to be proud of, but there is something that can be done. HowToBecomeTheTrueMedia.com. You know? How's that for a promo? You like that? So, you know, this is where we're really at in the world. You know? That's where we're at. People know absolutely nothing about how anything works. Think that they're going to win. You hear this in the alternative community. We're winning. We're winning. You're Ralph Wiggum and you're in the nose up to the elbow. You got your nose, you got your arm in your nose up to the elbow. Ralph Wiggum from The Simpsons. And with the arm in there up to the elbow, we're winning. That's this whole community. That's the freedom community. Yeah, we're winning. Yeah. We might start to win a little bit if people know how to fucking communicate and publish in the modern age through, I don't know, that thing that they call the internet. You know, maybe if you learned about how that worked, you could reach some fucking people with a message of truth. I don't know. Maybe. Just a suggestion. Maybe that's how it works today instead of like writing fucking letters with a quill pen. You know? Maybe you need to learn how to use a fucking computer. Maybe. I don't know. I'm just guessing. I'm grasping at straws out of the air. Telling you, man, I got no patience for people at all anymore. At all. I need to pray for more patience is what I need to do because I'm out. I'm out, folks, in case you can't tell. And I'm a sarcastic bitch about it because of how dumb other dumb motherfuckers are. You know, and they are ragingly fucking dumb. Painfully fucking dumb. But so dumb it hurts other people. You know, and they are doing harm to other people by remaining that dumb because their ignorance is my enslavement and yours. Whether you understand how that dynamic works or not, I just told you one of the keys to reality. Other people's ignorance is your fucking enslavement. And if you haven't figured that out yet, you don't understand what's going on. And you don't understand the work of what on earth is happening. And you need to understand it real fucking quick and get to fucking work. Educating people. Anyway, How to Become the True Media is a 23-week technology seminar that will give you the skill sets and the competence and the confidence that you need to use a computer, to create media, to communicate with people online and reach their minds and change their minds toward the truth, toward real morality. This is every Monday evening from 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Time from Monday, July 10th to Monday, December 11th, 2023, for a total of 23 class sessions. Limited enrollment spaces are available. Enrollment will open Saturday, April 1st, 2023 at midnight on April 1st. For more information on the seminar and what topics are going to be covered and taught in this year's How to Become the True Media seminar, visit our website at howtobecomετhetruemedia.com. One Great Work Network, going strong with over 70 content creators. Probably the best online network anywhere in the world. OneGreatWorkNetwork.com. Check it out and please support our wonderful content creators. There's a new section at What on Earth is Happening, donation gifts. It's called technology donations. There it is on the right. And it's also on the categories page, the first item in categories. I describe this as crowdsource funding, many hands making light work. The more people that contribute together, the faster and easier the work goes. The technology donation section of What on Earth is Happening donation gifts makes it possible for supporters of What on Earth is Happening to help fund the purchase of technology items required for What on Earth is Happening and One Great Work Network, specifically items considered too expensive for a single individual to donate by themselves via our Amazon technology wish list. Folks, I have the laptop that I'll be presenting on, and I have somewhat possible bad news regarding that presentation that's coming up later. It may be postponed. It may have to be rescheduled. We're going to have to see, and I'll have news about that in a moment. Let's step out real quick and test what we have on the... I was right. Let's see what we have on the donation page. So let's see. I'm going to go to the Donation Gifts website here. And thank you to everyone who helped me procure the laptop, because that's going to be a tremendous tool in in-person educational events this year and next. So I'm just going to click categories here. And then I'll click technology donations right here. And here's the one item that's up there. Again, I thanked everyone for the laptop and took that donation down. And here is the new donation toward a Mac Studio for this show. Thankfully, we didn't have much problems today. We weren't problem free. As soon as I hit start show, my app crashed. At least my computer didn't throw a kernel panic like it had over the last several weeks. But the app crashed and I had to relaunch it. And then it worked fine the second time. So thankfully, we were only delayed by about 30 seconds today. But anyway, this is the donation page for a new Mac Studio for this show, to stream, to composite, and stream this show. So I'm going to use a Mac Studio for it, whereas right now I'm using an old 5-year-old or going on 6-year-old computer. I would say it's closer to 6 than 5. And sort of just time to replace it for something, that's sort of processor intensive like this. So I'm looking at getting a Mac Studio like I did for the One Great Work Network for this streaming show. And we've raised almost 1,000 out of 4,000. So we're about a quarter of the way there, about 24% there. Thank you to everyone who donated. Please, let's keep it up, and I'll be able to get this new Mac Studio for this very show very soon. If the donations hold at this pace, it'll only be a couple of weeks. So thank you very much to everyone who donated toward this cause. So I'll jump back into my slides. So next Sunday, I'll be participating in a what's called a VIP summit hosted by Autonomy. This is Richard Grove's educational outreach movement, skill sharing, life skill building is what Autonomy does. And it's a tremendous organization, a lot of great people. And Richard has invited me personally to take part in this panel discussion featuring James Corbett and Ryan Christian. So I believe Richard will be there and many others as well. This is taking place Sunday, March 5th at noon Eastern Time. So that's 3 hours before my show goes live. I'm going to call it by ear, play it by ear, and call an audible next week on whether I'm going to do my own show or whether I'll just participate in this panel discussion and then call it quits for the day. Doing two things in a day like that is going to be very draining, so we'll see. Let me see how I feel and what I want to do for the show next week. And I may be live, I may not. So again, I'll play that by ear next week, but definitely check out the Autonomy VIP Summit. I believe that's going to be on tragedyandhope.com or Autonomy's website, getautonomy.com, I believe is the site. So I'm not exactly sure what platforms Richard is hosting that on, but it's one of those. This is the good news and bad news. I plan on giving my Two Masks, Same Face, The Dark Occult Origins of Nazism and Communism presentation this year, in the fall. However, we are having some communication problems with the firehouse that we were going to host it at the banquet hall above the Heightstown Firehouse. And we may not be able to procure that place. It may fall through. I'm pretty upset about that in a very disappointed way. Not angrily, but just disappointed that we're still at the place that we're at with education. We're still at the place where we're at with morality. We're still at the place where we're at with lack of understanding. And it's like, for me to even have to explain what I do at this point and what I'm trying to expose, I'm tired. I'm tired of saying the same thing over and over and over again to people who haven't done any true looking, any true digging. And I'm still going to have to do that to see if we can keep this place, because apparently they learned that I'm an anarchist, and that's somehow a problem, you know? And it's because of the news media. The news media tells people anarchy means lawlessness and chaos and violence, and it's the exact opposite. It is the only truly moral position to take in life, because it is about not having masters, not having people who claim to own you, which is violence, which is coercion, which is duress. Claiming to own somebody else, claiming that you're an authority over them, is violence. It's coercion, because everything that they claim you must or must not do is backed by the threat of violence. That's coercion. That's duress. That's immoral. If you condone that position, by definition, you are immoral. Anarchy is the only moral position. And unfortunately, the vast, overwhelming majority of this ignorant mudball species called human beings still does not know this. Still is this ignorant. And we're not supposed to be angry at people having the mentation that they still are TV watchers, that they still are news consumers, that they still are condoners of the state, listeners of the state, listeners of people who claim to be authority over others. Imagine that people are claiming that they own other people, because that's all authority is. If you do not think that authority is the claim of ownership of another person, you are wrong. Because if someone does not have the right to say no to your dictates called laws, then that is a claim of ownership upon their body and person. And you are saying, I'm your owner and you're my slave. And imagine telling someone in the position of knowing that that's slavery, what are you so angry about? Imagine how immoral a being has to be to take the position of condoning the concept of authority, let alone saying the people who are opposed to it aren't right and aren't moral. This is the only moral position. There is no other. It's the only one that can be moral, because it stands firmly against the concept of human authority. Human authority is in and of itself violence, and any true anarchist stands against all forms of violence, all forms of coercion, all forms of duress, all forms of the claim of the ownership of another being or their property. That's slavery, ladies and gentlemen. And if you don't know that, I feel fucking sorry for you by this point. Because you're very fucking brainwashed and you're very fucking naive. So we'll have to see what happens. You know, I'll make an effort to explain it in a calm way. But, you know, my sheer aggravation and disappointment for even having to do that at this point, I think you can see it's very clear and obvious. And then dealing with people who will dare to tell me, how dare you get this angry? Just go fuck yourself. You haven't done what I've done. You don't know what I know. You haven't been in the rooms that I've been in. You haven't been around the fucking people I've been around. You haven't been around the evil I've been around. You haven't been around the psychopaths I've been around. You haven't been around the people who rule other people and claim to be their fucking owners that I've been around. You haven't been there, or I would know who you are. You haven't fucking been there. So don't try to fucking tell me what I fucking know. You don't know shit compared to what I know. I know quite a fucking bit about what really goes on this fucking mudball of a planet. You know, it's not the planet that's a fucking mudball. It's a beautiful place. It's the fucking people that are a collective fucking mudball. Believe that. And they can change that condition by an act of their will if they choose to stop being fucking dumb fucking dunces and dumb fucking Luddites and pick up a fucking piece of technology and use it for your fucking education and your actual learning and growth. Your learning and your spiritual growth. And you'll go far if you apply your will to that dynamic. But if you don't, you'll stay a dumb fucking know-nothing. This is what I'm trying to do in this presentation, to educate people who don't even understand that Nazism and communism are the same fucking religion behind the scenes, because they've never been involved in the occult. They don't know shit because they have no insider perspective like I do. And they'll say, oh, these are two completely polar dynamic opposite political ideologies. No, loser. They're the same fucking religion with different masks on their faces. Yeah, that's what they really are, asshole. Know nothing, asshole. And they're going to tell me, who's been in the fucking world of the occult, who's been a priest in the fucking satanic religion in my past, you're going to tell me what I fucking know about the occult? You ain't telling me shit about what I know. I'll tell you what you don't fucking know, losers. And you don't know almost all of it. I'm done saying it nice. I've been done saying it nice. So coming up September 30th, Two Masks, Same Face. We might have to find a new venue. So I don't really want to promote that venue too much because we may not be doing it there. And, you know, I may not be able to do it at all. I may not be able to do it in person. I may be fucking just thrown out of everywhere because everybody doesn't know what the fucking word anarchy means in the year 2023. They don't know what it fucking means. That it means not having a fucking master and not being a fucking slave. And they'll oppose that. People will directly oppose that. How dare you say you shouldn't have a master? You should have an owner. You should be a slave and a happy one. How dare you be angry that you're enslaved, slave? This is where we're at. This is where we're fucking at. Give me a fucking break. I'm tired, folks. I'm tired. I'm tired of saying the same thing for 16 years and there being no fucking progress because I have a team full of fucking losers who don't understand how to communicate the message and don't know the technology to do it. Second Wednesday happy hour for Don't Tread on Philly is this coming Wednesday. Sorry, not this coming Wednesday. A week from this Wednesday, March 8th. Okay, so March 8th, 2023 is the next Don't Tread on Philly happy hour. It takes place at the Dive, which is a cool neighborhood bar in South Philadelphia, from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. Wednesday night, March 8th. Come on out if you're in the Philadelphia area. Even after I move, I'll be coming into the city every month. So, a great group of people, always lively discussions, and good networking possibilities going on at the Don't Tread on Philly happy hours. Check it out at don'ttreadonphilly.com or Don't Tread on Philly on Facebook. The What on Earth is Happening IPFS project is going pretty well. I have 3 nodes partially online. 1 is complete. When the third node goes, I will have nodes 2 and 3 live this week. I can almost guarantee that. So, by the end of this week, I will be posting those 3 nodes to the IPFS page. I will post the main folder both as an IPFS content ID, and I will also post the main folder as a gateway URL on an IPFS web gateway. So you'll have 2 ways of accessing the existing 3 nodes through Content ID. And again, IPFS is terrible for downloading large amounts of information. This isn't for that. This isn't like for people to mirror the nodes. I just want to make that clear. If people think they're going to do that, you're going to have an enormously hard time. This is for individual pieces of content to reside on the IPFS network permanently. And so, if there is any censorship that takes place where these files are normally uploaded, there will be a backup in the IPFS network system, so that they are uncensored. And if we get enough people sharing the same content ID, videos, and pieces of audio, we can always link to them through web gateways and or share them through IPFS content IDs. IPFS, unfortunately, is a very, very, very buggy system. It's unfortunately also the only one, generally the only one. There are others that do things like it, and I'm aware of them. I know all about that. But in general, to host large content sets and upload them to a distributed network and just make them available through links, gateway links, and or content ID links, it generally works, but it's very laborious to put a large data set. I'm putting a 0.5 terabyte data set on the IPFS network with each node. It's very laborious, and it's buggy. The IPFS software is extremely buggy, crashes a lot. It doesn't matter what platform you host it on. It's crashy, buggy shitware. And I say that right to the developer's face. You guys are terrible developers, unfortunately. You need some heavyweight desktop class app developers to come and rescue yourselves from the fucking hole you've dug yourselves into. And if you ever want to talk about it, you want to talk about it with me, I will give you professional advice from a technological perspective that is up there and rates among the heaviest weight consultants. Because I've worked in this field. I used to work for an internet service provider, and I was a lead technical troubleshooter for a major university, an Ivy League university, and a major technical troubleshooter for a major technology company and ISP in central New Jersey, near the Trenton and Princeton area. Right in Princeton, actually. So, if the developers want to talk about what you need to do to stabilize and improve the UI and UX of your software, I'm open to talking about it. I won't treat you like, I won't treat you like an asshole. I'll talk about it with you. You probably won't, because you think that you're doing enough and you're good enough at what you do. And I'm just telling you guys, you're not. You're not very good at what you do. Your software is incredibly fucking buggy. And everybody knows it. It's not me saying that. It's tens of thousands of people in forums all over the world saying that. But guess what? This is the only tool we have right now like this. It's like you got to accept shit for tools, or you have no tools at all. That's where we're at with software. I'm going to do a whole show on it, because people don't understand what content creators struggle with, especially ones who try to do the things I actually do. A lot of people don't even understand what I do at all. They have no clue what I'm doing or why. They don't understand it from a technological perspective. And they think they do. They think that I'm doing what they're doing, and they're doing these little tiny little shit things, and I'm doing something that is in scope a much, much larger and a much more pervasive thing than what you even think that I'm doing. Until you've been here and you've had the walkthrough with me, and you've had the sit down and the discussion with me in person, you don't have any clue about what I do. Zero. Goose egg zero. Get that through your skull. You don't know my operation. You don't know what I fucking do on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis, on a yearly basis, at fucking all. Technologically, you know zero of it. The people who have actually had discussions and in-person conversations with me at my headquarters, where my operation is set up at, you know part of it. You may not know all of it, but at least you have an inkling of what I do. The people who have never had that walk through and sit down know zero of what I do. Don't try to pretend like you do, because you don't. So, If you want to help with the IPFS project, you need 200 megabits bandwidth in the upstream upload direction. If you don't have that, don't even bother going to this website. If you do have a 200 megabit connection, wired Ethernet connection in the upstream direction, and you can prove that you have 200 megabits of bandwidth through speedtest.net in the upstream, not the downstream, in the upstream, then you can host one of my IPFS nodes. And if you want to, go to whatonearthishappening.com/IPFS for the details. If you want to call in to talk to our guest Logan Hart today, you can call in through Telegram, whatonearthishappening.com/call. ARC 2 is still available, whatonearthishappening.com/ARC. A 2 terabyte hard drive, I'll fill it up for you. You send it to me, I'll fill it for you and ship it back. 26,000 audio files, almost 10,000 books, almost 3,500 videos, all from my own archive of data that I downloaded from the internet over these many years. whatonearthishappening.com/ARC. Gifts.whatonearthishappening is where you can get hard copies of presentations that I've done. You can get t-shirts as promotional items. You can get the Passio complete collection solid state drive. You can make a tech donation. Flash drives, DVDs, shirts, coasters, stickers, keychains, etc. It's all there at gifts.whatonearthishappening.com. This helps keep my operations running, so please support my gifts area of my website. If you would prefer to make a straight donation to the What on Earth is Happening and One Great Work Network causes, you can visit whatonearthishappening.com/donate. You could donate via our Amazon technology wish list, 9 different cryptocurrencies, Cash App, GPay, or personal check and money order sent to a mailing address. That's all my announcements for today. Let's jump over to my special guest, Logan Hart. Give me one moment, and I will get that going. Of course, when I talk to guests or callers, I have to use this headset, which brings in my audio to me. Here we go. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, my special guest, Logan Hart. Let me get into his bio real quick. Logan Hart is a spiritual student and teacher, a presenter, podcaster, musician, producer, artist, voice actor, and entrepreneur living near Dallas, Texas. Logan is a voluntarist, meaning an anarchist, a pagan, an animist, a naturalist, a syncretist, and a student of natural law. His spiritual journey has brought him to work and study in the areas of metaphysics, psychology, healing, shamanism, paganism, epigenetics, rune divination, meditation, breathwork, and much more. His primary undertaking is to help humanity reclaim our individual and collective sovereignty by gaining a deep understanding of the true universal principles and the rejection and dismantlement of all physical, mental, and spiritual systems of slavery. Logan is the creator of The Wizard Factory, a spiritual philosophy platform featuring a video podcast show and various courses and services. He is also the creator of Heartfire Visions, a YouTube channel and digital media production company focusing on his more artistic endeavors. In 2019, Logan also composed and produced the original film score for Mark Passio's documentary, The Science of Natural Law. Ladies and gentlemen, my special guest, Logan Hart. Logan, welcome to What on Earth is Happening.
Hey, Mark. Glad to be here, man.
Absolutely. Thank you for coming on. And, one of the things that when we talked pre-show a couple of weeks ago, that when we set up the show, that you said you wanted to get into was an accurate understanding of truth. Because if we don't work from a perspective of attempting to develop an understanding of actual objective truth, we're sort of sunk from the beginning. We're sunk from Jump Street. And I want to give you the floor to go into your own understanding of that and why you feel it's so important that people have to begin from that starting point, or there's really not going to be any true progress to undoing tyranny and enslavement in our world. So you have the floor, and open up and go into detail on those matters.
Yeah, thank you. This is definitely a topic that's one of my favorites, near and dear to my heart, and something I just feel that I have a intuitive good grasp on and ability to explain and understand. So yeah, I mean, truth really has to be the foundation of everything that we do, because it is the concrete aspect of what we're operating within. From my pagan perspective, I'm a believer that we choose to manifest here with a spiritual purpose. Each of us has a spiritual purpose that we came here to accomplish, and that's different for each person, but it has to be rooted in truth, in especially understanding the truth about morality and right and wrong actions. So if you don't have that, there is no objective or universal purpose to tether to act in accordance with, and to be your guiding light on this spiritual journey that we're on. So that's the first thing. If you don't have that, you're completely lost, and you're untethered from anything of substance or meaning. And of course, everything, you're going to naturally fall into a nihilistic and bleak worldview. So my definition of truth is, there's some nuance to it. So it, simply put, I would say it's reality itself. I think this is the first place that people kind of get tied up with or get in the weeds about, is they're confusing, first of all, perspective or perception with truth, which is false, and even knowledge with truth, because they are not the same thing. Your knowledge is your personal understanding of truth itself. They are two separate things. So that's an important distinguishment to make as well. So it's an observation or a statement, if you're speaking truth, about our shared and singular reality, the one reality that we are all in. It's not about my truth or your truth, it's the truth.
That's right.
And this is coming in the form of past, present, and future. This is how I look at it. So with reality, what is now and has in the past manifested, this is the unchangeable and the static form of truth. It's already occurred, or it's already in the process of becoming that singularity. And then with natural law, this is why natural law is so important, because this gives you a vision of the future aspect of truth, the dynamic and changeable aspect of truth. It's like a formula. If this, then that. If input, then output. It's like a program that's running. This is the nature of our reality. So this is where the most power comes in, because what is happening now, what has already happened, is pretty much unchangeable. There's nothing you can do about it at that point. Your power is in what you're creating, and your ability to look into the future and see the trajectory of events and variables that are playing out, and seeing where that's heading. That's a form of power in and of itself. But then your own actions can play into that and influence the outcome. So this is really what I say being a magician is all about. My show is the Wizard Factory, and we're not talking about Harry Potter make-believe bullshit. This is actual real magic. Your ability to create via a deep understanding of the laws of creation. You have to know what is going to bring about the outcome that you're going for before you can actually bring that about. So that's kind of my overview in a nutshell, to answer your question directly, and I'll let you reflect on that.
I love what you said there. I'd like to add a couple of addendums as well. Before I even do that, I just want to mention that we're both wearing shirts that say "No Masters," and I don't know if yours says "No Slaves" at the bottom like mine does, but
it does.
Yeah, so we both are, and this was not planned, folks.
This happened with Will.
This is a syncretism here, right?
Totally unplanned, dude. I just picked this shirt out, had no idea you were wearing that one as well.
It's amazing.
Hilarious.
So me and Will, when I had him on, wore Know Your Rights shirts, and you and I are wearing No Masters, No Slave shirts. We did not plan this, folks. That is a synchronicity, perhaps a synchromysticism synchronicity. But anyway, I thought I'd mention that. But let me go back to what you were saying, first of all, about truth simply being reality. It is that which is. It is that which has occurred, which is occurring in the present moment, and it's already entered the realm of manifestation and cannot be changed. That is what we're referring to as the truth. That is not different for everyone. It is the same thing for everyone. It is objective. It is immutable because it cannot be changed. You cannot reverse what happened in the past. It is that which has already manifested, past tense. That becomes the truth in the present moment. And it is not the same thing as perception, as Logan was saying. Perception is often mistaken as someone's truth. You'll hear people, as you were saying his truth, her truth, your truth, my truth. There is no such thing. There is only one objective truth, and there are varying degrees of perception of that truth, but the truth itself does not waver or change. And a lot of people have a very, very, very hard time with the understanding of this. And it's because the ego wants to tell them that everything is relative. Again, I've said in the past that the most frightening thing to a human being, humanity's greatest fear, is that the truth is absolute. And I'll amend that to say humanity's greatest fear is that the truth is singular and absolute. The ego does not want that to be, because it wants the truth to be whatever the ego is most comfortable with. And again, I go back to the Travis Walton quote all the time. The biggest problem anywhere on earth is that people's understanding is perpetually filtered through the screening mesh of what they want and do not want to be true. You know, you cannot bring the ego into the truth. You cannot bring the ego into the situation saying, well, I'm uncomfortable with that, so it can't be true. Because, you know, as the millennials and Gen X's say, feels over reals. I mean, imagine that there is even this saying, that it exists in the world. People are saying feelings, and my perceptions and feelings of what I feel are true and right should come before actual reality. So they're even not denying that actual reality exists. They're saying that the perception of actual reality and then putting that forward for other people is not as important as how they feel. Imagine the ego on a being like that to say, my feelings are more important than what is true. Could you imagine? There is no better definition of Satanism to me. If you were to say, just give me the hallmark defining characteristic of what it truly means to be a Satanist inside your being, I would say reality is what I get to determine it is based on my feelings. Could you imagine at this point in time, with all of the information we have at our disposal and our fingertips, being a person that views truth in that regard, that it's far less important than their own egoic feelings going on in their own body and mind? Imagine that. Your reaction to that.
Yeah, well, what's ironic about that is this whatever solipsism, whatever you want to call it, is the ultimate self-defeating argument, because even an argument in and of itself is an assertion of truth. So by making some sort of assertion of truth that there is no truth, you're contradicting yourself as soon as the words come out of your mouth.
Yes.
You know, feels over reals. I've never actually heard that, but that is pretty hilarious and also deeply disturbing. But like I said, I mean, that's my first what I get when I hear that is just like, oh, says you, right? I mean, is that the truth that you're
Right.
saying there, or is
Right.
that just your truth? And what I say to these people, because I've had the same conversation hundreds of times and time again on my page in the comment section, I am one of those people that actually does kind of engage with comments and goes back and forth. I know you and Will talked about that recently, about the more post and ghost type of approach, which I totally get and understand. For me, it's just as much for my own benefit as anyone else who may be reading that thread. It's really, my priority is last for the person I'm actually talking to. My expectation for them actually hearing me and changing their mind is very, very low. But at best case scenario, somebody else might read that thread, and it's like they're hearing two voices that's in their own head. They're programming, speaking with higher wisdom, and what those two things would say to each other, and then like kind of how that plays out. But then, at the very least, some of my best writing and like future post material comes from stuff that I come up with when I'm responding to these people, because they make my brain work in a different kind of way that I wouldn't have done on my own. I'm not thinking like them. They're coming from that place of ignorance. And so I'm having that same dialogue between that bad perspective and a better perspective. And it's kind of making me like look at things in a different way and then try to explain it directly to that instead of from my own place of understanding.
You're refining your own philosophical argument. You're refining your own engagement approach, your own communication skill sets. It's a good way to sharpen those things. Yes,
I'm sharpening my sword on the block of stone that is their heads.
Sure. If you go into it with that intent and engage along those lines of engagement, then it can be a powerful tool, I think. So
it actually does help the algorithm as well, because for every comment someone makes, if you respond, you're doubling the amount of engagement. And at the end of the day, we got to kind of play the game with these platforms. As much as they suck and they're tyrannical or whatever, if we actually want to reach people, you kind of got to play the game a little bit.
And
so that's
I'm on all of them. I may not engage as much as others, but I'm always posting what I'm doing on these different social media platforms. If you go to my site, you'll see them all listed down the left side column of the site. There's quite a few social media platforms that I'm on. Let me ask you about the technical aspect of it and get that kind of out of the way. You have a pretty great aesthetic for your work as well. Did you have any kind of a background in technology or graphics, or did you learn that as you go? And what was your attitude about learning all of that stuff? Like, did that come pretty naturally to you? Were you resistant to it? Give me the whole breakdown of how you engage with the technology.
Yeah, that's a great question. I had zero background going into this when I first started the podcast, and some of you may know I started back in the day with a partner who's no longer a part of the channel. He chose to go his own way, but for the entirety of that partnership and beyond, I've been 99% of the work when it comes to the actual content creation. Mm-hmm. He was just part of the episodes and the recording, but beyond that, I was doing all the graphics, the thumbnails, the editing, the web building. I mean, you name it, I did all of that, and I had zero, other than like I'd been doing some like basic interviews on Facebook where you just like bring somebody in on, no technical skill required there. I had some moderate like computer knowledge, and I've been producing music for a while, so there was a little bit of, I guess, that kind of back knowledge,
some carryover from that audio world,
right? Yeah. But by and large, I mean, I'd never even opened a graphic design program. I started out using Canva, which is very, very basic and very kind of like, drag and drop, like, not as in depth as something like Photoshop or whatever. Right. And I mean, it's actually really cool to me to go back and look at those early episodes and the thumbnails and the graphics and everything, because you can see the progression of my skills, you know, with the colors and the fonts and just like the layout and everything like that. So, I mean, I've always been a pretty creative person, again, being a musician and
Right.
other various mediums. So, you know, I can't speak for everyone. There will be more friction for somebody that's not as artistically inclined. So that aspect of it definitely made it easier for me in terms of just having a natural aptitude for creative things. I have an eye. I know what looks good and what doesn't. And I'm also just a very meticulous, like detail-oriented person. So I will spend that extra hour just on the thumbnail until it goes from good to great,
Right.
you know?
Right. How long would you say overall it took you from being a person that really didn't know much about the process when it comes to media creation and dissemination of that media, you know, to communicate with the public, to being able to do it fairly competently? What was your time frame, just to give people an understanding of what a person who may have some knowledge but not have a lot of technical expertise, but wants to do it and wants to learn it, about how long of an investment was that for you, time-wise?
Well, I mean, from you know, it's obviously somewhat subjective, but from my own perspective, I feel like it was round about a year, maybe a little less, you know, 10 months to a year or something like that.
Yep.
Where I personally felt like, okay, like I'm starting to, you know, have more pride in my work, and I
Right.
can feel that progress and being like, wow, this, you know, my stuff isn't so amateur. It's actually starting to
Right.
look pretty slick.
Think about
So-
that, folks. A year's time. I mean, you could go from not knowing this stuff to about a year's time being pretty proficient. And even if you're not as adept with it, let's say 2 years' time. That's still not a tremendous amount of time. We're not talking about like decades here. It's possible in that
Right.
time frame for sure.
It's totally attainable. It's just not going to come like the magic pill that many people, you know, are accustomed to with, you know, the microwave and fast food
Right.
culture that we're in.
Yep.
You know, it's the perfect amount, I think. You know, like if things come too easy, you won't appreciate them. You won't feel that sense of pride when you post a new video. You know what I'm saying? Like personally, I love the feeling of having earned those skills because I started from scratch. But it's not so long that it's going to be unattainable, right? Like you said, I mean, a year really isn't that long. And trust me,
Sure.
if you stay busy with the work, it's going to fly by. And you'll be at a year before you know it, and maybe you've put out, you know, a dozen videos or 50 videos, depending on the type of stuff that you do. But I mean, you'll just have that moment where you stop and you look back. I mean, just the other day when I was posting the interview that you and I just did, Mark, and I put the thumbnail in my folder, and I just scrolled up in that folder, and it's all the thumbnails in there, and I'm like, damn,
Right.
that's a lot of
Right.
episodes. I mean, especially I'm doing long form content. These are all an hour plus episodes, and I edited every single one, and I made all those thumbnails. I spent time sitting there. For each one of those represents that little,
Right.
you know, bubble in time. It's like, man, you know, like, and this
You
is the
see
thing,
how
too, that
how
I
much
wanna-
it builds in such a short period of time. You know, it's amazing even to the content creator looking at it like, wow, look at how much I've put out there. It's great also
Yeah.
that you put that interview out there. I'll put that in my library and link it on my website tomorrow as well. I didn't realize it was out yet, but I'll definitely get to that tomorrow.
Yeah, the timing of that worked out really great. So, you know, anyone watching this, obviously you're a fan
Right.
of Mark, so you'll definitely want to go check that out on my channel. We covered human nature, which I think it was a really, really fantastic interview.
Great
But
topic.
this is what I wanted to say about this as well, is if you're thinking about doing the content thing and you feel that overwhelm and that daunting, you know, sense of dread about it, just know that the getting started is actually the worst part, because even though you might suck for a while and it's going to be a bit of a grind, it only gets better from there. It's like with anything. I mean, you know, again, as a musician, as a guitar player, the worst is at the beginning when you really, really suck. But as long as you don't quit, it only gets better. and you improve your craft, you get better at the skills, and people will recognize that, and you'll get better reception for it as well. So, that's the key, is just get started and push through that period of suck, and then it's all downhill from there.
And it's just discomfort at the beginning. That's really all. It's just not knowing the tool as well as when you begin working with it for a while. It's like any other new tool that you would buy or start to use. And persistence is the main factor. You just have to be persistent with it. You have to, keep pressing forward and not give up. This is one of the big tenets of the How to Become the True Media seminar is continued persistence, just being unrelenting, like a pit bull that just latches its jaws and doesn't let go. I tell people in the seminar, if you're the kind of person that grew up and was told, you seem like you're really struggling with that, maybe you should just put it down and let it go and let it be, and you listened to that advice, you were sold a fake bill of goods. You were given horrible advice. What you should have been told by anybody who is trying to build you into a stronger person is keep doing that until you get it right. Fail over and over and over again, but never give up if that's something you really want to do. Be sure it's something you want to do first. But if it is something you really want to do, never, ever, ever give up until you achieve the goal that you want to set for yourself regarding that thing. And most parents will not teach that mindset, that life skill and mindset to their children. They'll say right to their child, put that down, give it up. It's too hard. Do something easier. And they think that they're comforting the child. They think they're doing something good for that child. You are weakening and ruining a child by doing that. Thank God I at least had some influences in my life, because there were influences that took that approach and said, "Oh, just go do something else. Just do something that makes you happy and is fun, and it's not as hard or challenging and doesn't frustrate you." And it's like, then there were other people that said, "Do you really want to do this? Is this worth your time to do? If it's worth your time, do it, and do it right, and keep doing it until you get it right." And I followed that advice. I didn't follow the bad advice of put it down and go do something fun. I followed the advice as if this is worth your time, then do it the right way. And follow it through until you've done it the right way. Because if it's worth your time, you're giving of your life when you're giving of your time. So don't give of your life unwisely, of course. But if it is absolutely worth your time, then you put 110% of your effort into it until it's accomplished the way that you want to accomplish it. I want you to speak to that dynamic of persistence and how it is taught and learned, because I think that's one of the things that people really have to get built up under them as a life skill. If they don't have that, they tend to be wishy-washy. They tend to drop out. They tend to only pay attention for a little while, and then their attention's gone, and then they're not really putting the energy into accomplishment. And what's the point of even saying that there's a great work if we're not going to try to accomplish it and win? I'm not in this to lose. I don't want to lose and be enslaved and have the whole world be enslaved. I want us to win this thing. So, your take on the whole dynamic of persistence and being relentless.
Yeah, so there's two things that I can share on that. I think the first thing is about, we have this tendency to have this perfectionist mindset. I think it is, like you were saying, a product of the ego, fear of failure, fear of looking stupid, even to yourself, like doing something and looking at that and being like, oh, that sucks. There's like this obsession with perfection. Personally, I think a lot of that comes back to the Christian mindset.
Yes.
Because it's all about, Jesus is perfect and you can never be like that. Your best hope is to, anyways. But first of all, dropping that, and really this has been a big struggle of mine as well, that I'm continuously trying to work on, is kind of letting go of that perfectionist mindset and just being okay with getting messy, making mistakes, and just getting into the nitty-gritty of it. That's the first thing, because that fear of that less than is what's keeping a lot of people just afraid to even take the first step. They get into analysis paralysis, and they're just overanalyzing.
Right.
And I just need to watch more YouTube videos and learn more before I just, like, got to drop that thinking and just get in there and get your hands dirty. The other thing is, with persistence, is sometimes, yes, like, discipline is an element to it, but you have to find some enjoyment in the process, because if there's not some passion and care developed for that craft, whatever it is, that endeavor, it's just not going to be sustainable. It doesn't matter what it is, whether it's proper diet, working out, building a business, learning these tech skills and media skills. If you don't find some level of enjoyment in it, and you have to find that.
Right.
Maybe it doesn't come naturally to you, but find something that you enjoy about it that you can latch onto. And then when you're feeling that crushing weight on your chest, when you like, oh, I need to make another video, I need to make a presentation, whatever, just, you have to shift your mindset out of all that dread and focus on the feeling that you have yet to have for the accomplishment of it, for one thing.
Right.
Like, instead of focusing on how much you don't want to do it and how much it's going to suck and all this, think about how good it'll feel when you have it done.
That's right.
And this is a good mental trick that you can use with, doesn't matter if you're, like, cleaning your car out or whatever it may be, just something that you need to do and you're not, like, excited about it. Just use that mental exercise, use visualization to see into the future and focus on how good it will feel when you do it. And then, like I said, focus on something about that creative process that you truly enjoy. And even if that's just what you start with, that can be the little spark that starts the fire. And then, typically when we get going, that's when we start, like, getting into the flow and really enjoying it. And we're like, gosh, I'm really glad I did this. Again, like, say you go into the gym, if you just get in there and you start getting that blood pumping and you feel all those endorphins from the weights and stuff, then you're like, I'm so glad I came, and didn't listen to that voice in my head, and you just push through. So you got to remember that too, whatever it may be. Just take note of the enjoyable parts and then latch on to that.
It's very important and powerful. It's a big part of self-care, because yes, discipline to do the work is one thing, but yeah, if you overly stress yourself out and you go too far, it could negatively impact one's health, and you don't want that. So there has to be a balance line tread there as well. So what projects do you have on the horizon, and how would you say your future work? How are you targeting? What's the tyranny that's going on in our world, and what do you hope to see accomplished in the work that you do? Let's say 2-3 years into the future.
Well, so. First of all, I'm getting ready to start my own live show that'll be starting next weekend on Saturday.
Great.
About noon Central Time. For anyone interested in that, do make sure, if you're going to go subscribe on my channel, click the bell and turn notifications to all. That way, if I go live, you'll get that ping, because that's the best thing you can do against this censorship and shadow banning bullshit that's going on.
Logan, I'd love to carry your new live show on One Great Work Network as well. So speak to us about maybe getting a producer for that, and we'll simulcast it on OGWN.
Great, that'd be awesome.
Cool.
And so, what I want with that is a more fun and interactive, almost like a more casual format, because the podcasts tend to be very formal and structured and everything, which is great. There's a place for that. But I want to, it's about engagement. It's about the community, getting people involved and not just kind of pontificating from a pulpit, so to speak, and try to make it more fun. You know what I mean? Because it's like, at the end of the day, if we want to be effective, we have to kind of do things that maybe seem counterintuitive, because yes, like, slavery is, like, about as serious as it fucking gets, but you have to inject that fun and that engagement to get people connected, because otherwise you can be upset about it, but you have to just look at like the psychology, and what is actually happening, what's causing people to click away or whatever. So another thing, is I'm trying to do more like shorts and reels and things like that, simply because that's where the attention is.
Right.
You have to kind of follow these trends, and like I was saying earlier, play the game, because ultimately the goal is to reach people. So even though that wouldn't be my first, I prefer long form content. I prefer very well laid out, structured material. I have to kind of bend that a little bit and go a little outside my comfort zone if I want to truly reach people.
Sure.
And that can be the thing that grabs somebody's attention, gets them to come to my channel, and then they check out all the other more in-depth stuff.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that approach. We have to engage on all fronts, and if people can bring people in with short things like that, there's no problem with that. And I know a lot of people chop up my work into shorter, digestible chunks and put it out there, and I tell people I'm fine with that. Just don't take it out of context, and I think that it helps people to engage with it, and then again, as you said, they'll come over and listen to the longer form material afterward.
Yeah. So to answer your question, my main goals are to actually reach people, and not just people that are already inside the echo chamber, but make content that's a little bit dumbed down without compromising the message, of course, but kind of catering more to a little outside that wheelhouse, and trying to get, capture people's attention that way. And then to basically take the work that you have done and others are doing as well, and just trying to take that, it's like passing the baton and continuing on down the path, and trying to, bring my own unique and individual voice to it, and hopefully fill in some of the blanks too. And like I feel like one of my gifts is with nuance and explaining those more kind of nuanced in between aspects that people really, really struggle with. I mean, they're so clunky and just like black and white with their thinking. And it's a real problem when you're understanding stuff like this, because there is a lot of complexity when you start drilling down into it, and you have to be able to have that holistic intelligence, that right brain aspect as well,
right,
to see that, the bigger picture and understand those nuances, instead of just putting everything in these simple boxes or trying to oversimplify things.
Regarding truth, going back to that as a main underlying thread for this conversation, I find that the tool that has been probably the most indispensable in being able to understand reality from constructural wrong thinking and fantasy and illusion and mind control techniques, etc., and to learn true discernment has been the trivium. And, if you really break down the steps of the trivium and you understand that you have to analyze things, as you were talking about before, from the level of the causality, the causal factors. You can't just keep dwelling in the manifested result, describing the symptom, describing the event, right? It's important to know common, everyday events. It's important to know, what's actively taking place as far as events go. No one should be ignorant of those things. But to continuously dwell there is, as researchers like David Icke have put it in the past, you're sitting in the prison describing all the details of the prison cell, but you're not looking for the way out of the prison cell. This is the level of engaging with the 3D, as opposed to going into the realm of the causal factors. So again, in the occult world, they describe this as analyzing and viewing things from the level of effects rather than from causality. And if people would shift their understanding, they would logically, through the trivium, see things in a totally different perspective. And I want to get your take on this. If you explain to people what should you be doing to really help, right? And you try to get that understanding across to them. The first thing you have to do is know the problem. Because without an accurate diagnosis of the problem, there is no coming up with a solution. So you have to know that the problem is the incorrect perception that the concept of authority is morally legitimate when it is not morally legitimate. It is immoral. That's the very nature of the problem lies there. Because then if people take that wrong information and they base their behavior on that wrong information, then their behavior is going to be either doing violent things or condoning violent things based in authority, in the very concept of authority. So, what would then be the logical step to take not to make a person do those violent things because they don't believe the incorrect belief that they were taught through wrong information? Logically, it comes down to putting the correct information out there for people and for their consideration and their learning so that they think the correct way, and then their behavior is not informed by untruth, incorrect thinking, and then they will then not do incorrect behaviors, which are immoral behaviors such as violence, coercion, and duress. Your take on the simplicity of seeing it that way and logically thinking it through that way once you apply the Trivium method. Because I think that's a gigantic factor in the ability to grasp truth and logically think it through and vet it and verify that you have it correct. Your entire take on that.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I see this as a huge problem in the so-called awoke, red pill community, conspiracy and all this kind of stuff. They're very aware of the problem, which is a valid first step. It's like if you're playing chess, you have to observe the pieces on the board as they are, and these are the conditions that you're operating in. You can't just play it blindly and move pieces arbitrarily. You have to respond to the reality that's actually in effect. But that's only the first step, and that's the problem. Is the problem isn't the problem. The problem is the results of the problem, if that makes sense. It's the realm of effects, like you said. It's what has already manifested. And the true power comes in understanding natural law, the realm of causality. What has caused this to be the state of things now and in the past historically, because shit hasn't changed for thousands of years. We haven't gotten the fucking message yet. And therefore, you open a history book and it's just story after story about tyrannical psychopaths and causing wars and invading each other and all this kind of nonsense. So, I mean, yeah, applying the Trivium, to me, and again, I'm going to take it back to my perspective as a pagan, and I want to first dispel, when I say that, it probably, like most things, doesn't mean what you think it means. Right. Okay? You have to let go of this Hollywood idea of, a bunch of dingy-looking, barbarians, like, throwing bones around and sacrificing animals and stuff. I mean, that was an aspect of ancient paganism, but when I say it, what I'm talking about is simply having a direct relationship with reality and observing nature through firsthand experience, not putting your consciousness in a box in a religion like government, like whatever any of the cultural religions, anything that, even like you said, the things that aren't typically called religions, they're boxes for your consciousness. Right. Having that direct experience, and that's the part of the Trivium that's most important, is you get that feedback loop of, I did this, or even someone else did this, and this was the outcome. And this is what the aspect of paganism that is mythology is all about, is taking a story that has moral wisdom baked into it. And there's something about this that the human mind just really grasps on a much deeper and like subconscious level than just outright trying to explain things to people literally. They understand stories to the point you don't even have to spell it out sometimes, because they don't even necessarily get it consciously. It's a subconscious thing. And so movies and films and things like this and are modern day mythology,
Right.
with the same effect. Is you're observing, okay, these were the events that played out, these were all the variables, these were the characters, these were their choices, and this was the result. This is how all that shit played out.
Right.
And maybe you can live vicariously through these characters without having to personally make those same mistakes that they did, and extrapolate that wisdom without, say, touching the hot stove to know that that's hot.
Right.
Maybe I shouldn't do that, you know.
That's why fiction can be a powerful allegory if it's framed in that context to teach a moral lesson. It's one of the most powerful mediums, I think.
Right.
So, what do you think we go over to the phones and take some calls from viewers of the show and see what they have to question you regarding? What do you think?
I'd love to, but there's actually a couple of points
Sure.
that I wanted to touch on.
Go right ahead.
Regarding this topic, because I just think this is so important. Like we said at the very beginning, if you don't have a firm grasp on truth, you're going to be screwed right out
Sure.
of the gate. And words is where things really get people confused a lot of the time. Like we said, conflating perception with knowledge, with truth. These are all separate things. And then even like subjective versus objective, you know, so like take, for example, if I was to say pineapple on pizza is horrible, okay? That's a sort of assertion of truth, but really that's just my subjective opinion that I'm stating is horrible. It's, you know,
There is
but
no
if I
objective
change the
truth
wording-
regarding that. That's a matter of opinion based on taste and preference. Right.
But if I simply changed the wording and said, I don't enjoy pineapple on pizza,
Right.
now that becomes an objectively true statement.
Correct.
Because it's true. I don't.
Right.
I'm not speaking for anyone else.
Correct.
You know, but it doesn't taste good to me.
Right.
And, you know, and then like knowledge versus truth, say, you know, knowledge is not truth in itself any more than a book about sailing is actually sailing, right? It's all conceptual in the mental field until it's applied to reality, because that's where truth actually exists. And in that same way, words themselves are merely pointers to truth, not truth themselves. You know, saying the word boat is not an actual boat.
Sure.
It's just a word that evokes the same idea of something that we've both experienced in reality, a thing that does exist.
Translates in vibration to the internal dictionary of what a boat actually is. Yeah. So that we can
Right.
have a shared
So-
reference point of understanding.
Exactly. And so, like, a belief that is untrue is simply a belief, but a belief that is true becomes knowledge.
Right.
That's a differentiation as well. You know, like you say, Mark, belief is not required because the truth itself is external from
That's it.
perception altogether. It doesn't matter. You may know about it and be correct. You can also have false ideas about it and be incorrect, but neither of those things change the nature of the thing itself, what it actually
and how it
is.
affects you in reality, because you're both in objective reality and you're going to be affected by the nature of that thing, or whether you believe in it, understand it, accept it, know it, or not.
And it is our universal job, our moral like obligation to align our perception with truth, because
Correct.
via the trivium we're only, our output and our creative ability is only as good as the knowledge that we have. So if our perception, if our awareness is absolute dog shit, then so will be our creation, and that affects not only our lives and the outcomes that we say we want and aren't getting, but ignorance affects other people too. You know, like it's dangerous.
Like
actually.
their
It's
belief
not
in
just-
authority, you know, that is untrue.
That's the ultimate, of course.
Let me
but
ask-
even something as
yeah.
simple as negligence on the road, you know, and that's literally putting people's lives at
Right.
risk as well, because you're not paying
Sure.
attention.
Just I see some crazy driving here in the Philadelphia roadways.
Oh my gosh.
Especially at night
bad.
on weekends. It's unbelievable. Just people like racing on the highway, in front of hundreds of other cars, like racing each other. Like you're not putting other people's lives at risk. It's insane what goes on. What people think they have the right to do, and just do it, and they don't care whose life they're endangering. It's like if some people didn't have fast reaction times, there would be incredibly bad accidents. But let me
got to pay attention twice,
all the
once
time
for yourself and once for all the idiots out there as well.
Let me ask you this. What is the main factor in your determination that is preventing people not only from the recognition of truth of things like authority being an immoral illusion that it does not actually exist in nature, all the way up to people who do have understanding like that and just refuse to take action upon it and speak out? What are the main psychological factors in your estimation holding them back?
I'm really glad you asked that, and I think this will be a great way to kind of tie up the conversation and then maybe go to some calls, because this will be a good thing to kind of leave people with.
Sure.
Is like, it's all about personal responsibility, but the way you phrased it there, specifically the way I see it, is that truth and healing go hand in hand, and they're like having a left leg and a right leg. If you don't have both to alternate, you're not going to be able to go anywhere, and you're not going to be able to walk the path of spirituality. So essentially, you're only going to be able to accept the level of truth that matches with your level of healing. If you're still in a state of traumatization, go and study trauma-based mind control. This is how it works. And carrying that trauma is going to poison your worldview to the point that, say, for example, you will see human beings as dangerous, vile, horrific, and therefore, yes, we need slavery to govern over people because they can't be trusted.
That's what the news is for. The news is to make people fearful of everybody around them,
That's all it talks about is, look at all the danger out there. We need police, cleaning up these streets because there's drugs and murders and children's kidnapping and all this crap. Exactly. And it's not to say that those things aren't happening, but when do they ever actually balance that out with positive stories?
Right.
Oh, look at someone who actually put a whole thing together on their own and helped some people, or advocating for some cause or whatever. They don't talk about that stuff. So again, you have to combine the two together, as you will only be able to accept truth that matches your level of healing, because if you're in that distorted state, you're going to project that onto the world. And then, but also, you'll only be able to heal by taking truth in and actually unfucking yourself from the distortion that trauma causes. So it's like, that's why I say it's like left foot, right foot. You have to take some truth in and let that heal you and shift your perspective. And then your consciousness will be a little bit higher for it. And by integrating that's actually going to heal you, and then you can take in higher levels of truth that you couldn't accept before because it conflicted with your wounded worldview.
It's literally a frequency.
Like climbing a ladder.
Yes, it's literally like frequency healing. That's why some people can't take a outwardly directly spoken method of truth that are in such a low vibration. They're in such low spiritual vibratory energy that the truth hurts to them. It feels so uncomfortable and like a distortion that they're actually comfortable with the lie.
Their wound.
That's right. And they're
triggering those wounds and that pain.
Right. I think that's an awesome response. So thank you for that. And I think that's a good place to, take the conversation into a further conversation with callers. But before we do that, just give people all the information about where they can reach you. I don't want to get cut off, by the end of the show. Tell people where they can reach you and all your information.
Yeah, well, so thank you for that. You can go to thewizardfactory.com. That's a good centralized hub for all of my work. You can find links to the podcast, social media platforms. Do go follow me. everywhere that is a place that you hang out, because I'm putting out different types of content. Of course, YouTube is the main place that I'm focusing on, as long as that's a viable option. I am also on the One Great Work Network, if that's another platform that you enjoy. Again, check out the new interview with Mark that we just put out on my channel. It was really a good one, and obviously, if it's a good kind of overlap of audiences here based on this one.
I'll be posting
And
that one
again-
tomorrow on my site and on One Great Work Network.
Great, yeah, it's gotten some very good reception and feedback so far. So
Great.
very happy with that, how that turned out. And of course, I've got the live show launching soon. So definitely check that out. Turn on the notifications so you get notified. And I guess as a last thing, I can mention that I'll be appearing or presenting on both Funnel 3 and Seed 5 this year. 2 separate presentations that I'm very, very excited for, as this is a type of medium that I haven't gotten to really get into as much. I've done one other one for Seed 4. And even that one, I was rushed and under a lot of psychological pressure. So, I mean, this will be the first time I'm really getting to take my time and organize my thoughts. And I'm already just super excited with how that's coming along. So
Excellent. Ladies and gentlemen, Logan Hart of thewizardfactory.com. Let's go to some of your calls and see what you have for us. All right, let's hear from... Let's hear from Matt. Matt, you're live on What on Earth is Happening with my special guest, Logan Hart. Go right ahead. Matt, go ahead and unmute yourself with the call button at the bottom of the screen that says unmute. Still showing that you are muted from your end, so we'll come back to you. So, folks, when I call on you, be ready to unmute. All right, here we go. Let's hear from Darren. Darren, you're live on What on Earth is Happening. Welcome. I'm still showing that you're also muted. You have to unmute your microphone at the bottom of the call window. So, callers, try to take some time before the show to... go ahead and just make sure that your mic is working. Maybe you could do a call with a friend and just make sure that you're aware you need to unmute yourself when I unmute you from the server end. So be ready to do that when you're called on. Let's hear from Natasha. Natasha, you're live on What on Earth is Happening. Go right ahead. Our callers are having tech problems today. They have to unmute themselves, and I don't think they're doing it properly. So let's try one more person. If not, we could just go back to talking. Let's hear from Jennifer. Jennifer, you're live on What on Earth is Happening. I wonder what people are having problems with the unmuting, because... I'm speaking to you through the same platform, so it's clearly working. So let's try. Let's try Angela. Angela, AJK, go right ahead.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, see, it is working. It's just some people, I think, are unfamiliar with the concept in Telegram. You have to make sure in your call settings for Telegram that you're on the correct device, and you have to be ready to unmute yourself. I can't unmute yourself. Your mic is going to be muted by default. I can unmute you from the server, but then you have to unmute your own mic. So just so that, callers in the call-in room know that, I just, reiterated it there. But Angela, welcome to What on Earth is Happening. What do you have for us?
Well, I just wanted to say I watched your Human Nature show right before you
Awesome.
came on today. So I got a double dose of both of you,
Cool.
and it's been wonderful. I really enjoyed what Logan was speaking about regarding the difference between knowledge and truth. That, just because I have a lot of knowledge doesn't mean I can apply it to my life and it become a truth of mine.
Right.
My truth is where my perception of myself actually lies. And, I am a truth-loving ludtard, Mark, and
Well, you're
I-
not so much of a ludtard there, because you did very well in the How to Become the True Media seminar, and I think you learned a lot and moved your skill set forward. Don't you think?
Oh, I have. The problem is that I haven't applied a whole lot of it. I'm working on some. It's really too heavy content, but I've got to get it out of me. It's sort of like I got to get this opus out of me, and then I can have some fun.
Logan, what would be your
and
advice
so-
to someone like Angela, who is wanting to get started, still in the process of learning the technology, has knowledge that she wants to communicate out there, and is getting ready to begin that type of a process? What's your advice to someone like that?
Well, I would say practice in a space that doesn't give you any pressure. In other words, say that you make a few videos or whatever it is you're wanting to create, a few pieces of content without any intention to post them. And maybe you do, but that's not, you don't feel this like, oh, I'm doing this and I'm gonna, put this out there for the world to see. And taking that pressure off of yourself is sometimes a huge relief, where you can kind of be free to be a little bit more creative and experimental without fear of criticism. And if they turn out great, hey, might as well just go ahead and post them, right? But say you go ahead and make 3 or 5 videos and kind of get through that initiation stage of really rough material, and then you're at the level where, okay, now it's good enough that I feel comfortable putting it out in the public. And maybe even you go back and you remake those first few videos because the topic was good. It was just the execution was really rough because you hadn't developed it yet.
Logan, that's a wonderful thing you stated, because my dad used to teach Maya in college, and I have an older Maya program.
Very complex
thought, oh my
program.
God.
Very
Yes, well,
complex,
he taught me the basics, and I thought this would be a great way to do some visualization to help, because a lot of people are visual learners, and I thought, well, I've got some skills in this, I might be able to use it. So I uploaded it, burned it to my computer, and of course it won't let me use it because it's too old.
Yeah.
And I'm
It's
really
very demanding.
frustrated with
Very
that.
demanding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now they want, like $1,400
Sure.
a year just to be
I
able
used-
to use this, and I'm like, you
Used to
got
be much more
freaking kidding me.
expensive than that. It used to be much more expensive. They've come down in price,
Yeah.
believe it or not, as expensive as that is. Maya was actually used to make the 3D special effects for my natural law documentary. That's
Oh, really?
That's what the visual
That's
artists
wonderful.
used. Yes.
Well, anyway, so I'm looking for a different alternative to try to get this, because I started making some slides, but I'm going to have hundreds. It's not going to work. So I need to find a different way to make. I'll figure it out.
You'll intuitively
I want to
learn
thank you.
how to weed that down. You'll intuitively learn how to make cuts and make things more succinct. That will happen in the creative process. I go through that process all the time, where I'm like, oh my God, this presentation is going to have 400 slides. And then when I eventually wean it down to what's the most important data that I need to get out, I'll cut it down to 120. That'll always come out in the wash, so to say, when you go through the process of refining what you want to exactly communicate to your viewing audience and get out there. So you're doing all the right things. Just keep at it. And as Logan said, practice. And you don't need to be perfect either. As we were talking about earlier, as Logan very rightly said, a lot of people get hung up on this concept of perfection. And, no one needs to do that. You just do the best you can. You put the information out there. You refine it as you go. And I think you'll do fine. So you're doing all the right things, Angela. The technical knowledge will continue to come as you practice, and just take Logan's advice and just get out there and do it, and kind of refine your process as you go, and I think you'll be fine. All right, let's see. Let's hear from Judy. Judy, you're live on What on Earth is Happening. Welcome, with my special guest Logan Hart.
Hi, thank you so much.
There
I
you go.
really appreciate it. And it was a nice presentation or a nice discussion,
Thank
I
you.
should say. Yeah. So I'm curious because I actually had started to get some equipment and I'm starting this process myself
Mhm.
with regard to making videos. And it's interesting that you're saying this, that the analysis paralysis thing, because this, like just 2 days ago, I had this breakthrough of like, wait, I know how I can just get started. So that was kind of cool. Excuse my dog in the background. My
It's okay.
apologies. But in terms of video editing software, I'm doing a trial right now with Vegas Pro, but I didn't know if you had any recommendations. I know this isn't really I appreciate the
No,
content, but I'm sorry. I'm
that's a
kind of
great
like,
question. Logan, what do you like to edit on as far as video is concerned?
More or less, I use exclusively DaVinci because, simply put, it's free and it's very powerful. You can. There may be a bit of a learning curve to someone who has zero experience, but the good thing about using a fairly popular program is that there's tons of information. So, say you watch 3 different hour-long tutorials on how to use DaVinci, and after seeing 3 different people's takes of like beginner stuff, that should be enough to at least get you started.
Right.
But I like using programs that have, that can take you on a really long trajectory of from beginner to pro, based on the features that it offers as you kind of unlock new skills as you go. Learning like the transitions in there are really nice. The text options and animations and things like that. You can do quite a lot
Yeah.
and make a very slick looking presentation with it.
Oh, it's got all the bells and whistles, and as you said, there's a free version of it, so that's a good place to start. But I mean, Logan, how dare you use a product from a company called Blackmagic Software? I mean, it's totally immoral, man.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine there are people who tell me I'm immoral because I'm using a computer with a Apple with a byte taken out of it. I mean, yeah, I should throw away my whole workflow of 16 years just because a company has a logo of an Apple with a byte taken out of it. It's like, yeah, the software is called DaVinci Resolve. It's from Blackmagic Software. That's the name of the production company that makes the software. But it's great nonlinear video editing software. It's called Resolve. DaVinci Resolve is the name of it. And I think it's a good choice. Another 2 excellent choices that I'll throw out there. You said that you were going to do a trial of Vegas Pro. I don't know too much about that one. I've heard a little bit about it. I haven't really used it much. But obviously, part of the Adobe Creative Suite is Adobe Premiere Pro, which is a very popular choice. And when I do video editing myself, I mean, I'm generally working on the Mac OS platform. I use Final Cut Pro. So Final Cut Pro 10 is my choice, and I think it works very well for what it does. So if you're on the Mac OS, that would be a good choice as well. So those are the big ones out there. They're the main names. Any one of them will do the job just fine. They have all the bells and whistles of a good nonlinear editor. And whichever one you choose, it's ultimately about the skill of the person using the software. It's not as much about the tool. It's about how are you going to tell your story through video. Any nonlinear editor will get you there. They're pretty much the same type of tool. Different interfaces, yes, but generally do the same task. So there's a few to get you started, and you could compare and contrast and try them and see what you like best.
yeah, thank you. Thank you. I had actually started DaVinci and then I had to get a new laptop because it couldn't handle everything that I needed
Yep.
to download on it. So I think I will try to go back to DaVinci Resolve and check that out.
Let-
Thank you.
Let me give you an addendum of technical advice. 2 little pieces. One, if you're really interested in learning more about computing in general, take the How to Become the True Media seminar. And again, if you don't, okay, no problem. I'm just saying I think I could get people to a better level of technical competence with my level of expertise. But also, Laptops are really not the way to go for creative content. You want to look at buying a desktop computer. When you're making content like this, you are not going to be traveling with it most of the time. Have a laptop for if you need to present, but you really want to look at a true desktop system with a large display that you can really focus your creativity out onto that screen, and you'll see your productivity skyrocket with a decently configured desktop computer. That's my advice in that regard, that people believe that they need laptops, but they generally do not need laptops unless they're a mobile presenter. It's one of the things that I cover in How to Become the True Media. You'll actually get much more of your money's worth investing that money in a decently powerful desktop configured system, and your productivity will go through the roof when it comes to content creation. Just my 2 cents on that.
Wow. Okay, cool. Thank you.
You got it.
And Logan, I just wanted to mention to you too, one of the things that I realized with regard to some of the information that kind of needs to get out there after watching basically the left and the right all get fueled up by crazy narratives and, all this insanity. But I'm like you. I like to listen to long videos and content, real, true, good, content. But people do need to be entertained to a certain extent in order to keep them engaged right now. I guess a lot of people do. And so just like dropping in nuggets, I think is one of those ways to get there. Anyway, when you said that, I was like, yes, that's the plan.
Yeah, I mean, you just have to ask yourself, why am I doing this? Why am I even beginning on a journey to put any type of truth out there? And if your goal is not to actually reach people, then what's the point whatsoever? So that's why I say you got to kind of go outside your comfort zone to do what is quote unquote in or popular or whatever, if you're trying to do what you say that you're actually trying to do and reach people. And so, you got to kind of play the game a little bit.
Absolutely. Judy, thank you so much for your call. Great points that you brought up. Let's hear from Ricky. Ricky, you're live on What on Earth is Happening with my special guest, Logan Hart. Just unmute yourself at the bottom of the call window, the large blue microphone icon. Still showing that you're muted. We'll come back to you. Let's hear from Darren. Darren, you're live on What on Earth is Happening. Welcome. Folks seem to be still persisting with the problem of unmuting themselves. I could assure you that they are live, but they are not unmuting themselves properly. So when I say the call window, it's the area with all of the people's names listed, and there's a large blue microphone icon to the left of the list of names. And you should be seeing, if you roll over Logan's video, you'll see it at the bottom. Here it's green because he's live, where it says you are live. You're going to hit that microphone icon for yourself. Let's go back to Matt and see if he worked out the audio issue. Matt, you're live on What on Earth is Happening. Go right ahead. No, I gave people a couple of chances. All right, I'll mute him up again. Let's hear from Robert. Robert, you're live on What on Earth is Happening.
Oh, hi,
there you
Mark
go.
and Logan and the listeners.
Welcome.
Thank you for the show.
You got it.
I have an idea, actually. I like that, Mark, you put out this one-hour documentary film, because I think it could reach people who are not so much into this yet, to watch the longer formats.
I tried to keep it as simple as possible and short, but still feature length.
Yes, and I think it's there is a very lot of content in this 1 hour as well.
And Logan's awesome music for the score. I mean, it's really cool electronica that hammers the points home beautifully. I think it was very appropriate to the content as well.
And just my idea that it has a few questions, and
Sure.
do you have a questionnaire for it for people who want to answer the questions before watching the movie for themselves?
Explain what you're asking again. Did like when we did the questions on the street? Is that what you're talking about?
Yes. So the same questions for the viewers.
Do I have the results of those? Yeah, I think I presented them on a past podcast. They're actually, I can't give you the number off the top of my head, but if you go through the podcast, we actually presented all the results of those answers, and it was pretty awful. It was scary how much people still don't know, which shows us what our work is to do.
New people who are listening to this content.
I think he's saying, Mark, do you have a downloadable version of
those
the
questions
that people can go and answer
No, you would
themselves?
have to basically jot them down from me going through them on a past podcast. I don't actually have a document posted with the questions. If that's your question, no, I don't have that up on my website. Ladies and gentlemen, that is all the time we have for this issue of What on Earth is Happening. Thank you to my very special guest, Logan Hart of the Wizard Factory. Great interview, great questions from our viewers. Thank you so much. That's all the time we have. I'll see you here next week, hopefully. Maybe in 2 weeks, we'll see how the roundtable discussion on autonomy goes. But thank you for tuning in today. And remember, ladies and gentlemen, government is slavery. See you very soon.